I'm Jessica Toth. I'm the program manager with Solve for Good. So what I'll do today is provide you with a short demo of our platform that serves as a marketplace for volunteers and organizations to come together to exchange information with each other and also to join forces, right, to work on social good projects. What I will try to get through today is to walk you through signing up, how to create an organization and a project, how to complete your profile both as an organization and as a volunteer, how to staff your project as an organization, and how to get in touch with us. So we'll see how much of that we're able to get through. As soon as you get to the site, you can see a lot of these bright orange buttons. Essentially, the buttons on the right, you can sign up with as a volunteer. On the left, sign up as an organization, or simply come to this sign up button and press. And then again on the right, you can sign up as a volunteer, or on the left, sign up as an organization. I'm going to sign up as an organization. And then you're taken to the sign up page. So once you get to the sign up page, you have a few different ways to sign up, either using GitHub, Google, or manual. What's the difference? If you sign up manually, you will need to provide a password. So you need to keep up with that. If you're signing up with GitHub or Google, the passwords associated with those accounts are automatically linked to the Solve for Good platform. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose my Gmail account. Okay, fantastic. I am signed in. So now we're going to get to creating an organization or a project. So from the organizational perspective, I'm going to head over to my dashboard. Typically, when you sign in and you go to the dashboard page, you will not see all of the information that I'm seeing here, but instead you'll just see those green tabs on the left. And one of those would say, create a new organization, just as we see create a new project. So the next thing that you want to do after you've signed in is tell us about yourself, but you're also telling the other party about yourself. So as an organization, let's head over to my profile. And I already have an organization, my demo organization. I'm going to edit my info. And you have the opportunity to add your name, summary, description, address information, and what is your organization about? Environment, public safety, health, and so on. This is a demo org, so I've added the bare minimum here. But if we look at Aleo's site, they've done an excellent job, right, of telling volunteers who they are. And then from the volunteer perspective, now I'm signed in as both, but typically you would be signed in as one or the other. You'd edit my volunteer profile, and your volunteer information falls into kind of like three big buckets: URLs, educational information, and then availability. Those links being portfolio, GitHub, and your LinkedIn, your educational information, and availability being very key. How many hours per week are you available? When does that availability start and end? Okay, so we've covered signing in, creating and editing your profiles. Let's move on to posting projects. And probably the best way to do that is to orient you to the organization and project view. So we're going to head back to our organization. And what you see is one organization can have a variety of projects. These are all of my demo projects, right? And what you want to do is you can create more projects here, or go back to that original dashboard site, and you can also create a project from there. So once you've created your project separate from your organization, you also want to add information about that project. So if we look at my 1A project, we do that by editing project information, summary, background, motivation, description. Let's look at Aleo's. So this was their organization page, right? Let's go to their project. And we see that they've, again, done an excellent job letting volunteers know This is the motivation of the project. This is the description, the impact, the stakeholders. And then on the scoping side, they've let volunteers know these are the goals of our project. This is where we have the ability to influence both in terms of our interventions and our actions. This is the data that we have available for analysis. So moving on from entering information about the project, let's take a look at one particular project and get oriented with regard to system use. We're going to head back over to the demo projects. And at the top of the page, what you see going along the top are phases. So we start with a draft phase going all the way to the completed phase for a project. Below that are tabs, and we've already gone into the information tab and the scope tab. We probably today don't have time to go through all of these, but one of the most important tabs to go into is the task tab. All right, so we're going to talk about tasks and phases. And I'm going to emphasize two statements here. Tasks are the things that a project must complete to get the work done. And phases are the stages that a project goes through as they complete the tasks. So as an organization and a volunteer come together to complete the tasks, it passes through the phases, right? So let's actually try to move through at least some of these phases to be able to obtain some volunteers into our project. The first thing that we want to do is we want to publish our project. The reason why is by publishing your project, you make your project visible to volunteers. And by publishing your project, you're moving it from the draft phase to the new phase. So what you probably want to do then before you publish your project is you want to at least add information to your project and add scoping information to your project. That can change. It doesn't need to be perfect. It probably will change, but try start at least with those pieces of information. So let's go to the information tab. We're going to publish our project. Yes, publish this project. And it immediately moves from the new phase, or excuse me, from the draft phase to the new phase. Okay, great. So volunteers can now see our project, but how do we actually get people to work on our projects? It's a two-step process with a couple of sub-steps in between. But the two-step process is first, we need to open up our scoping task to our scoper volunteer. The scoper volunteer is the first volunteer that's recruited to your project. Then you're going to open up the rest of your tasks to the rest of the volunteer community. Okay, so let's go through that process, but let's take a moment just to talk about tasks generally. There are 4 standard tasks that come with the platform. So the 4 standard tasks that come along with any project are project scoping, project management, domain work, and task and project QA. The way that you can think about these, scoping, just what is the project about, project management, tracking the work of the project. Domain work is, it's the meat of the project, right? Data analysis, data science, maybe consulting. And then this task that's called task and project QA, the way we think about that is the QA of the domain work. You also have the ability to tailor these tasks. So if you look at the tailor tasks for this particular project, we maintain project scoping and project management, which makes sense. But for this particular project, we're going to have chatbot analysis, text data analysis, and so we'll do on each of those tasks. And before I kind of pull back to, again, just go through the the staffing, I want to dig into just one of these tasks to be able to talk about all of the tasks generally. So if we dig into one of these, project management, and edit task info, the way that the format of this task, what you'll see here is generally the format of all of the tasks. You'll see the name, the description, the task type, onboarding instructions, the status, dates related, how many hours you think it might take, and then you can provide some links maybe to a Google Drive, that sort of thing. So the purpose of this is it acts as a tool to communicate between both volunteers and organizations. And what you're saying is, this is what it takes to be able to complete the project management task. This is what we need. This is what it takes to be able to complete the domain-specific task, the QA task. Okay, so we dug deep for a moment on the task. I'm going to pull back to talk about staffing. If you remember, I said there were 2 steps to opening up your projects to volunteers. 1 was opening up the scoping task, and then 2 was opening up the rest of your tasks to the rest of the volunteer community. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So you're going to head over to tasks, project scoping. We're going to allow volunteers to apply. Now, because I'm signed in as both an organization and a volunteer, I have both of those views at this time. You would typically not apply to your own project, right? So I'm going to apply to volunteer. And in this space, this is your chance to let the organization know what excites you about both the project and also the task. So in case it hasn't been clear yet, you're not just applying to a project, but you as a volunteer, you are applying to particular tasks. Also, I highly recommend in this section, if you want to share your contact information, this is a place to do so. All right, so I'm just going to say yes here, so we can move on to demo, apply to volunteer. As an organization, then you move to the volunteer tab. You can see that there is an application pending review. You have the option then to provide comments to the applicant, keep your own notes, accept or reject. We're going to accept. Okay, great. And so now you can see that that moves us into the scoping phase. So at this point, we got through that first step where we were staffing and we have accepted our first volunteer. The next step is opening up the rest of the tasks in order to accept the rest of our volunteers. So the way that you would do that is go to your tasks. And what I've already done for the purpose of this demo is I've gone through the rest of these tasks and I have already pressed the button to accept the volunteers. So if you see here, there's the option to stop accepting volunteers. So I'm not going to go through and show you the same process that I just showed you of accepting those volunteers. Okay, so once you have completed this process, the next thing you'll do is move to your scoping task and complete that task. And that will move you to the staffing phase. So I'm going to stop sharing just for a moment and just talk to you about what happens from here. So what happens from here, sorry, just checking Slack to see if there are any other questions. What happens from here is volunteers will apply to your project. We're already seeing it happen now for our pilot projects where other volunteers are even applying to those projects. Under your volunteer tab, as you've seen, you have the ability to accept or to reject those volunteers. You have the ability to click on their profile and to learn more about them. So volunteers, please add as much information to your profile as you can. Once you accept them, you will move into the in progress phase, and that's when the work really begins between both parties. So what about the rest of the phases? It's fairly intuitive and it's not automatic by design. So we want you all to be able to have that discussion about delivery, about quality assurance, and completion. We can provide you with recommendations about that, but that is to come. So how to get in touch? If you haven't already, join us on the Solve for Good Slack workspace, and in particular, there's the hashtag tech platform channel to ask questions about the product, to provide comments and your thoughts.